compass needle spun like a broken clock, round and round. No magnetic north, just spinning. We were Delta 7, Special Reconnaissance Unit, deep in the Cambodian highlands. November 15th, 1971. Operation Silent Thunder. The coordinates from HQ placed us 12 clicks northeast of Firebase Alpha, investigating reports of missing supply convoys. Standard patrol. Standard mission. Nothing was standard about that jungle going dead silent. I mean, completely silent. No insects, no bird calls. Even the wind stopped moving through the canopy, like someone hit a mute button on the entire world. My ears started ringing from the absence of sound. "Thompson, you getting this on comms?" I whispered into my headset. Static. Then, nothing. I pulled out the topographical map, compared it to the terrain. The ridgeline should have been 200 meters east, according to my compass. Still spinning, we were facing north. But the shadows fell wrong. The sun was in the wrong position. "Sergeant Hayes?" Private Cole's voice cracked behind me. "The map, it doesn't match." I looked at where he was pointing. The map showed dense jungle. We were standing in a clearing that shouldn't exist. A perfect circle of dead earth, maybe 30 meters across. No grass, no fallen leaves, just packed dirt, like something had been burning here for years. That's when I heard it. Faint at first. A rhythmic tapping, like Morse code, but backwards. Dots and dashes in reverse pattern. Tyler was adjusting his radio pack, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. "Hayes, I'm picking up transmissions, but they're..." He paused, listening to his headphones. "They're coming from our own frequency. Someone's broadcasting on our channel." I grabbed his headset. Through the static, I heard voices. Familiar voices. Our voices. Having this exact conversation. The compass needle stopped spinning, pointed directly at the dead ground beneath our feet. Something was buried here. Something that knew we were coming. We moved in staggered column formation, night vision goggles activated despite the daylight. The NVGs showed heat signatures where our naked eyes saw nothing. Through the green-tinted display, I watched Reed take point, his thermal outline moving through what looked like normal jungle. But on NVGs, there were other shapes, human-sized, moving parallel to our position. "Contact, 2 o'clock, I whispered. Everyone froze, weapons trained on the tree line. I adjusted my NVG focus. The heat signature was there, definitely human, standing motionless between 2 rubber trees, watching us. "Tyler, you see it?" "Negative, no visual." I switched off my night vision. Nothing, just jungle. Switched it back on. The figure was gone. That's when Tyler's radio crackled. Not static this time. A voice, clear as day. "Tyler, Tyler, over here." His face went white. That's my brother's voice, but Mike died in Da Nang 3 months ago." The voice came again, clearer now. "Tyler, why didn't you write? I waited for your letters." Tyler was shaking. "It knows about Mike. It knows he was waiting for my letters when he got hit by that mortar." Cole grabbed Tyler's shoulder. "It's psychological warfare. Charlie's playing mind games." But I knew better. Charlie didn't have access to dead brothers' voices. Charlie didn't broadcast on encrypted frequencies. And Charlie definitely didn't disappear from thermal imaging while leaving footprints in the mud. The footprints were there. Size 10 boots, military issue. leading directly toward our position, then stopping. Just stopping. Like whoever made them had simply vanished mid-step. Reed was studying the ground with a magnifying glass from his field kit. "Hayes, these prints, they're ours. Same boot tread as standard issue. But look at this." He pointed to the last clear print. It was sinking deeper into the mud as we watched, like an invisible weight was still pressing down on it. The radio burst to life again. Multiple voices this time, all of them sounding like us. "Contact front. Area was clear. The map doesn't match." The village appeared through the morning mist like something from a fever dream. 12 huts arranged in a perfect circle around a stone well. No smoke from cooking fires. No children playing. No dogs barking. Just silence. And those carvings. Every hut had them. Red ochre painted eyes, carved deep into the wooden door frames. Not stylized or artistic. Anatomically perfect. Human eyes. Wide with terror, staring directly at whoever approached. "Population should be 43 villagers," I said, checking our intelligence briefing. "Rubber plantation workers, friendly to U.S. forces." Cole was examining the well. "Hayes, come look at this." The stone rim was covered in scratches, fingernail marks, like someone had clawed at the rock, trying to climb out. The bucket and rope were gone. When I dropped a pebble down the shaft, I never heard it hit water. That's when the mist started moving wrong. Natural fog drifts with air currents. This mist moved in spirals, wrapping around individual huts like fingers. It ignored the wind completely, flowing upward instead of across the ground. Reed had his camera out, documenting the scene. "For the after-action report," he said. But when he developed those photos later, they showed something different. The mist had shapes in it, human silhouettes, reaching toward our position. I keyed my radio for a situation report to HQ. "Base, this is Delta 7. Village appears abandoned. No signs of hostile activity. Request permission to continue to primary objective." The response came through clearly. "Delta 7, be advised. Village destroyed by B-52 strike 6 months ago. Nothing should be standing." I looked around. The huts were solid, real. I could smell wood smoke, even though no fires were burning. I could hear distant conversations in Khmer, even though no people were present. The red eyes in the carvings seemed to follow our movement. "Hayes," Tyler whispered. "I was here before. I remember this place. But I've never been to Cambodia until this mission." The mist was getting thicker, rising to shoulder height. And somewhere in that fog, I could swear I heard my sister's voice calling my name. My sister who died when I was 8 years old. The access hatch was exactly where intelligence said it would be. Concealed beneath 3 feet of rotting vegetation, GPS coordinates perfect to the meter. A steel door marked with faded Cambodian script and a single American serial number, B07 1971, base 07. The classified research facility that officially never existed. "Breach protocol," I ordered. "Flashbangs, on 3. Cole positioned the charges. Tyler had his rifle trained on the door. Reed monitored R6, standard entry procedure. 3, 2, 1, execute. The flashbangs detonated in perfect sequence, blinding white light, deafening concussion. We moved through the breach with practiced precision. The interior was empty, not abandoned, empty, like it had never been occupied. No furniture, no equipment, No dust patterns where furniture should have been, just polished concrete floors and walls that looked like they'd been scrubbed clean yesterday. Our tactical lights cut through the darkness, revealing a central corridor stretching deeper than our beams could reach. Emergency lighting should have activated when we breached. Nothing. The electrical systems were dead. That's when every light in the facility turned on at once. Fluorescent tubes flickered to life from somewhere deep underground, illuminating corridors that branched off in directions our blueprints didn't show. The humming sound wasn't electrical. It was organic, like breathing. "Reed!" I called out. "You feel that?" He was standing perfectly still, face pale. Something touched my arm, brushed against my sleeve. He looked down at his uniform. 3 parallel tears in the fabric, like claw marks. But nothing was there. The lights began failing in sequence, starting from the deepest parts of the facility and working toward our position. Not flickering out, dying, like something was consuming the electricity as it moved toward us. Tyler's radio crackled. "Delta 7, this is base. Respond immediately." I grabbed the handset. "Base, this is Delta 7. We've breached the facility, investigating anomalous power fluctuations. Delta 7, abort mission. Facility has been sealed since 1954. Whatever you're in, it's not Base 07. But I could see the serial numbers on the walls. B07 1971. This was definitely our target. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, Reed whispered, "It's still touching me." Our night vision revealed what the lights had hidden. The facility was massive. Corridors branched off like arteries, leading to sections not shown on any blueprint. Mining tunnels, according to the geological surveys. Natural limestone caves converted for storage. We followed the main passage, laser designators painting red dots on each turn, marking our route for extraction. That's when we found the blast doors, 3-inch steel, designed to contain explosions. Or keep something in. The metal surface was covered in symbols that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. Not carved, burned, like someone had pressed molten metal against the steel and drawn these patterns with bare hands. The symbols glowed faintly in our NVGs. Phosphorescent, maybe. Or something else. "Hayes, are you seeing this?" Cole's voice was barely a whisper. I was seeing it. And hearing it. A voice I'd buried 20 years ago. "Little brother, why didn't you visit my grave?" Sarah's voice, clear as the day she died. 8 years old, killed by a drunk driver while I was supposed to be watching her. The guilt that drove me to enlist. The ghost that followed me through basic training, through Vietnam, through every firefight where I should have died instead. "Sarah's not here," I said aloud, more to convince myself than anyone else. "But I am," the voice replied. "I've been waiting for you to find me." The symbols on the steel door were definitely moving now, shifting, rearranging themselves into shapes I almost recognized. Letters, maybe. Or faces. Tyler had his radio out, scanning frequencies. I'm picking up transmissions, multiple signals, but Hayes, they're all broadcasting the same message. He handed me the headphones. Through the static, I heard children singing. A lullaby my mother used to sing to Sarah. "Rock-a-bye, Sarah, in the treetop. When the bough breaks, the cradle will drop." The blast doors were opening, not mechanically, no motors, no hydraulics, just sliding apart like they weighed nothing. Beyond them, darkness so complete Our night vision couldn't penetrate it, and somewhere in that darkness, Sarah was still singing. The mining tunnels stretched for miles, connecting natural cave systems with military excavations. Our map showed 3 main arteries leading to the central complex. We chose the middle route, widest corridor, best sightlines. That's where we found them. 5 figures standing in perfect formation, Cambodian civilians based on their clothing. But they weren't moving, weren't breathing, just standing there, facing our direction, like they'd been waiting. Survivors? Cole whispered. I raised my hand for silence. Something was wrong with their eyes. Even through NVGs, I could see they were solid white. No pupils, no iris, just blank, milky orbs reflecting our infrared beams. U.S. Army, I called out. Can you understand me? One of them turned its head, not smoothly, in jerky, mechanical movements, like a marionette. When it faced us directly, it smiled, too wide, stretching beyond what human facial muscles should allow. That's when Reed opened fire. 3-round controlled bursts center mass, military doctrine. The bullets hit. I saw fabric tear, saw bodies jerk with impact. But they didn't fall, didn't even step backward. The figure with the impossible smile took a step forward, then another. Tactical withdrawal, I ordered. We moved backward, maintaining firing positions. But something was wrong with the shadows. In our NVG display, I could see our shadows against the tunnel wall, 4 green outlines, moving as we moved. But there was a 5th shadow, moving independently, reaching toward us. That's when I realized what was happening. One of them, the smiling one, its shadow was moving 3 seconds before its body, like the shadow was leading and the physical form was following. Hallucination or reality? I whispered to myself. The answer came from the smiling figure, in perfect English, with perfect American accent. Does it matter, Sergeant Hayes? It knew my name, and its voice sounded exactly like mine. We ran. The tunnel opened into something that shouldn't exist. A cavern so vast our tactical lights couldn't find the ceiling. But it wasn't the size that stopped us cold. It was the darkness itself. This wasn't normal darkness, absence of light. This was darkness with substance. Thick, viscous, moving like liquid. Our infrared lasers, designed to penetrate any shadow, simply disappeared when they hit this black mass. No reflection, no scattering, just gone. GPS was useless. Radio comms reduced to static. Even our compasses spun wildly, pointing toward the center of the dark zone. Stay together, I ordered. Maintain physical contact. That's when we saw them. 2 points of crimson light floating in the absolute blackness, not reflecting our lights, generating their own glow, about 8 feet off the ground, watching us. The eyes blinked, slow, deliberate. When they closed, the darkness became complete. When they opened, that red glow painted everything in hellish shades. Cole had his rifle trained on the lights. Permission to engage? Negative. We don't know what we're dealing with, but I knew. Somewhere in the rational part of my mind that was rapidly shutting down, I knew. This was my fault. I should have called for extraction when the compass started spinning, should have aborted when the village didn't match intelligence, should have listened to my instincts instead of following orders. The guilt was eating me alive. Every decision that led us here, every choice that put my squad in danger. The red eyes moved closer, not floating, attached to something massive, something that displaced air as it moved, creating wind currents I could feel on my face. Reed was breathing heavily beside me. Haze, I can smell it. Wet earth, copper, like blood mixed with soil. The eyes stopped maybe 10 feet away, close enough to see they weren't eyes at all. They were wounds in reality, tears in the fabric of space itself, leaking red light from somewhere else, somewhere worse. "We need to get out of here," Tyler whispered. But when we turned around, the tunnel entrance was gone, just more darkness, pressing in from all sides. We were trapped in the belly of something that shouldn't exist. Tyler started laughing. Not nervous laughter, genuine amusement, like someone had told him the funniest joke in the world. "Tyler, report," I said. He turned toward me, still chuckling. His pupils were dilated, completely black. "It's all clear, Sergeant. Situation's under control." Then he opened fire, full automatic, spraying bullets into empty air, screaming at targets that weren't there. Contact front, they're everywhere." Cole tackled him, wrestling the rifle away. "Tyler, stand down, there's nothing there." But Tyler kept firing invisible rounds, pulling the trigger on an empty chamber, laughing hysterically. "Can't you see them? They're wearing our faces, and they're smiling." I zip-tied his hands behind his back while Cole held him down. Standard procedure for psychological breakdown in combat. But Tyler wasn't having a breakdown. Something else was happening. Black smoke started leaking from his mouth, not exhaled, leaked, seeping out between his teeth, drifting upward against gravity. "Jesus Christ," Reed whispered. Tyler's voice changed, deeper, speaking in perfect unison with my thoughts. "You're wondering if the same thing is inside you, Hayes. You're wondering how long you've been compromised." He was right. I was wondering exactly that. How did he know what I was thinking? "Because we're connected now," Tyler said, answering my unspoken question. "All of us. We've been breathing the same air, walking through the same shadows. We're part of it now." The smoke from his mouth was forming shapes, faces I recognized. My sister, Sarah, my squad mates from previous missions, all the people I'd failed to save. "The guilt follows you home," Tyler said in that same impossible voice. "But what if you never made it home? What if this is all happening in the last few seconds before you die?" I pressed my sidearm against Tyler's temple. "Shut up. Pull the trigger, Hayes, but you'll just be shooting yourself. We're all the same person now. We're all you, dying in that jungle, making up stories to avoid facing what really happened." My finger was on the trigger, but Tyler's eyes had gone completely red, just like the eyes in the darkness. The laboratory was pristine, surgical steel and glass, like it had been cleaned minutes before we arrived. Equipment I didn't recognize, but Reed knew it immediately. "Biological containment," he said, examining the sealed chambers. "This is a research facility, but researching what?" The answer was floating in tank after tank of greenish fluid, organic tissue samples, brain matter, and in the largest tank, something that made my blood freeze. A human nervous system. Complete. Suspended in preservative, but still showing electrical activity on the monitoring equipment. "Dr. Roston's work," a voice said behind us. We spun around, a man in a lab coat, clipboard in hand, looking like he'd just stepped away from his desk. Thin, pale, with eyes that reflected light like an animal's. "You're trespassing on classified research," he continued. "This facility is studying the boundary between consciousness and death, the point where psychology becomes paranormal reality." Cole had his weapon trained on the figure. "Identify yourself." "Dr. Marcus Roston, Project Lead Consciousness Transfer Initiative." And you're Sergeant Hayes, aren't you? The one who got his squad killed in the Mekong Delta. The one who's been carrying that guilt ever since. He knew. Somehow this thing wearing a lab coat knew about my failures, about the ambush where I made the wrong call, about the 3 good men who died because I hesitated. Private Morrison, Roston continued, reading from his clipboard. Corporal Williams, Specialist Jackson. They died screaming your name, didn't they? Asking why you didn't call for air support sooner. Shut up, I whispered. But here's the interesting part, Roston smiled. What if I told you this conversation is happening inside your dying brain? What if everything since the compass started spinning has been your guilt creating elaborate scenarios to avoid accepting responsibility? The containment tanks were glowing brighter. The suspended nervous system was pulsing with increased electrical activity. The Shadow Eater isn't a monster, Hayes. It's you, consuming every memory, every possibility, every reality where your squad might have survived. I raised my rifle, but Roston was already gone. Only his laughter remained, echoing through the sterile laboratory. The facility was coming apart, not structurally. Reality itself was unraveling. Corridors led to places we'd never been. Maps showed exits that opened onto blank walls. Our route back to the surface kept changing every time we turned a corner. I keyed my radio for emergency extraction. Base, this is Delta 7. Mission compromised. Request immediate evac at original insertion point. Static. Then, Delta 7, this is base. No record of your mission. No unit designation Delta 7 exists. Say again, base? We're Special Reconnaissance, Operation Silent Thunder. Negative Delta 7. Operation Silent Thunder was canceled in 1954. All personnel KIA. The jungle mist was seeping through the concrete walls now. Impossible, but there it was. Thick fog that smelled of rotting vegetation and cordite. The same mist from the village, but inside an underground facility. Reed was studying his map with a flashlight. Hayes, this doesn't make sense. According to our GPS, we're back at the insertion point, but we're still underground. I looked at my watch. We'd been in the facility for 6 hours, but the sun angle through the fog suggested we'd lost 3 days. Deja vu, I whispered. This had happened before. Not similar. Exactly this. Every word, every movement. Like we were replaying a scene from a movie I'd already watched. Cole was checking his ammunition. Magazine's full, but I know I fired at least 30 rounds back there. Tyler, still zip-tied and grinning, spoke in that wrong voice. Time doesn't work the same way here, boys. Past, present, future. They're all happening simultaneously. You're experiencing every possible version of this mission at once. The mist was getting thicker. I could barely see Reed, who was standing 3 feet away. Hayes, Tyler continued, remember what you told Morrison before he died? Remember your last words to him? I did remember. I'm sorry. And what did Morrison say back? He said he'd see me on the other side. Tyler's laugh echoed through the fog. Well, Hayes, welcome to the other side. The radio crackled one more time. All stations, all stations. This is Morrison. Hayes, if you can hear this, we're waiting for you. But Morrison had been dead for 3 years. Reed worked methodically, placing C4 charges at structural weak points throughout the facility. Bring down the whole complex, bury whatever was down here. But the whispers in the radio static were getting louder. Not words, fragments, pieces of conversations from missions past, death rattles from soldiers I'd served with, last transmissions from aircraft going down, all of it bleeding through the static, like ghosts trying to communicate. Hayes, you copy? Reed's voice, but coming through my headset from somewhere else in the facility. I looked at Reed. He was right next to me, not using his radio. Reed, did you just transmit? He shook his head. But I heard it too. That was my voice. The static grew louder. More voices. Cole giving orders. Tyler calling for medic. My own voice, screaming coordinates for artillery support. All conversations that had never happened, or hadn't happened yet. Hayes, this is Hayes. Do you copy? My own voice, transmitted from somewhere deeper in the facility. I keyed my radio. Who is this? This is you, 10 minutes from now. Don't set off those charges. You'll trap us all down here forever." But Reed was already connecting the detonators. "Charges set, 2-minute timer." The voices in the static became a chorus. Dozens of versions of our squad all talking at once, all warning us, all begging us not to trigger the explosives. "Hayes, this is Hayes from yesterday. The charges won't work. They'll just collapse the tunnels and seal us in with it." "Hayes, this is Hayes from next week. I'm still down here, still trying to find a way out." "Hayes, this is Hayes from 1954. I've been trapped for 70 years. Don't make the same mistakes." I grabbed Reed's shoulder. "Abort the detonation." "Too late," he said. "Timer's already running." Through the radio static, I heard my own voice screaming. "Hayes, this is Hayes. I can hear you setting the charges. They won't kill it. They'll just make it angry." The countdown reached 30 seconds. And somewhere in the static, I heard myself whisper, "See you on the other side." The explosions came in perfect sequence. Reed had done his job well. The facility shuddered, concrete cracking, steel beams groaning under the stress. But instead of collapse, the destruction revealed what was underneath. The walls fell away like stage props, revealing the real structure beneath. Not concrete and steel, bone. Massive rib cages, a skull the size of a cathedral. We weren't in a military facility. We were inside something's skeleton. The Shadow Eater manifested in its true form, not darkness, absence. A hole in reality shaped vaguely like a man, but wrong in every proportion. Too tall, too many joints, arms that bent in directions human arms shouldn't bend. It moved like smoke, but left footprints in solid stone. "Run!" I shouted. We ran through corridors that changed behind us. Walls became flesh. Floors became cartilage. The military facility had been camouflage, hiding something ancient and hungry. Tyler was laughing again, dragging behind us with his hands still bound. "You can't run from yourself, Hayes. You can't escape your own guilt." But I wasn't sure we were running forward. Every turn felt familiar. Every corridor looked like one we'd already traveled. We might have been running in circles, or running through time, or not running at all. The Shadow Eater followed us without hurrying. It didn't need to chase. It knew where we were going. "Hayes," Cole shouted over the sound of our boots on bone, "are we going the right way?" I checked my compass, still spinning. No magnetic north in the belly of a dead god. "I don't know," I answered honestly. Behind us, the Shadow Eater spoke in the voice of every soldier I'd ever failed. "The guilt follows you home, Hayes, if you ever made it home." The tunnel ahead split into 5 directions. Each one looked exactly the same. Each one felt like a trap. I chose the middle path, knowing it was wrong, knowing it had always been wrong. We broke through into moonlight so bright it burned our eyes. After hours in the facility, natural light felt like staring into a searchlight. The jungle was exactly as we'd left it, same clearing, same dead circle of earth. Our insertion point unchanged. But something was wrong with the shadows. In full moonlight, every object cast sharp, distinct shadows. Trees, rocks, equipment packs. But Cole's shadow was different. Blurred around the edges, moving independently, like it was trying to separate from his body. "Final head count," I called out. "Military procedure, account for all personnel. Hayes, present. Reed, present. Tyler, present. Cole." Cole didn't answer. He was staring down at the ground where his shadow should be. There was nothing there. No shadow at all, despite the bright moonlight. "Cole, report," I said. He looked up at me. His eyes reflected the moonlight like an animal's. "I'm here, Sergeant." Everything's fine. But it wasn't fine. The air around Cole was dimmer. Not darker, dimmer. Like something was absorbing the light before it could reach him. The moonbeams that hit him simply disappeared. Reed noticed it too. "Cole, step into the moonlight." I am in the moonlight. But he wasn't. He was standing in a pocket of shadow that followed him when he moved. A personal darkness that consumed photons, sound, warmth. Everything that made up normal reality was being slowly drained away around Cole. That's when I felt the pit in my stomach, the cold certainty that something was terribly wrong. "Cole," I said carefully, "what was your mother's maiden name?" He smiled. Same smile I'd seen 100 times during training, during missions, during late-night card games in the barracks. "Why are you asking me that, Hayes?" "Cole," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Take off your helmet." He complied immediately. Too immediately. No question. No hesitation. Cole always questioned orders that didn't make tactical sense. The thing wearing Cole's face was learning to be human, but it wasn't perfect yet. "Your eyes," Reed whispered. "Cole, your eyes." I saw it then. The pupils weren't black, they were holes, perfect circles of absolute darkness that seemed to extend infinitely deep. And deep in those holes, twin points of crimson light, the same red eyes we'd seen in the facility. "Why are they red?" Reed asked. Cole, or the thing that looked like Cole, tilted its head at an unnatural angle. "Red? Your eyes are glowing red, Cole." "I don't know what you mean." But it did know. I could see the intelligence behind those glowing eyes. Ancient, hungry, amused by our discovery. The shadow around Not Cole expanded like spilled ink, reaching toward Reed and Tyler. Where it touched the ground, grass withered instantly. "Hayes," Tyler said, still zip-tied but somehow managing to back away. "Remember what Roston said? The Shadow Eater isn't a monster. It's you." The Cole thing smiled wider than any human face should allow. "The guilt follows you home, Hayes. But what if this is home? What if you never left the jungle?" I raised my sidearm, trained it on the center of Not Cole's forehead. "Go ahead," it said in Cole's voice, but with something else underneath. "Shoot your best friend. Add his death to all the others you're carrying." My finger was on the trigger, but this thing was wearing Cole's face. Cole, who'd saved my life in Da Nang. Cole, who'd volunteered for every dangerous mission. Cole, who'd followed me into hell without question. "It's not Cole," Reed said quietly. "But it looks like him," I replied. "It looks like him because you need it to. Your guilt is so strong it's creating elaborate scenarios where your friends die because of your decisions. This whole mission, it's all in your head, Hayes." The Cole thing laughed. "Smart boy, Reed, but wrong timeline." Its shadow had consumed the entire clearing now. We were standing in a pool of absolute darkness, with only the red glow from its eyes providing any light. "The mission failed before it began," Not Cole whispered. "You all died in the insertion. This conversation is happening in the last firing of your neurons." I keyed my radio one final time. "Base, this is Delta 7. Mission failed, requesting immediate extraction." The response came through crystal clear. "Delta 7, this is Base. Mission parameters have changed. You are ordered to remain in position indefinitely." "Negative, Base. Squad is compromised. We need evac now." Delta 7, there is no extraction. There never was an extraction. You are part of the facility now. The radio died mid-transmission. Not static, not fade out, just sudden silence. The jungle around us was disappearing, trees fading like photographs left in sunlight. The clearing, the dead earth, the moonlight, all of it dissolving into gray nothing. Only the red eyes remained floating in an empty void. The guilt followed us home, I whispered to myself, if we ever made it home. But I knew the truth now. We hadn't made it home. We'd never left the facility. Maybe we'd never even reached Cambodia. Maybe we'd died in the transport plane, or during insertion, or in any of a dozen ways that combat can kill you. This whole experience, the village, the facility, the Shadow Eater, it was all happening in that last moment before death. My brain creating elaborate scenarios, desperately trying to make sense of failure and guilt and loss. The red eyes were getting closer, close enough to see they weren't eyes at all. They were mirrors reflecting my own face back at me. But wrong, distorted by guilt and grief and 20 years of carrying dead friends on my shoulders. Was I infected too? I asked the void. The answer came in my own voice. You were never.